When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
To ride, standing in the station, ready to step inside. All you can see, something that you do, was red as the future was waiting for you. Train rolls in the station, you cannot make a move. Something inside you gives you heat and then you know it's true. Is the fog lifting, or is it in your mind? You stand frozen as time unwinds. And moan, you can't reach your hand up and stop standing alone. Let them take your hand as you lift your face. Rise and take your place.
Shooter standby.
You hit the radio bullseye. and the home for everything Second Amendment, concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection, and it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
Hey there, folks. Welcome to Eye on the Target Radio. We really appreciate you tuning in and joining us in talking about all things Second Amendment, guns, concealed carry, politics when it relates to that, gear, just a history, a little bit of all of that. And so any of you who are listening or watching on OpsLens, please know that we've got OpsLens on Facebook and then on OpsLens, the app and TV. We're live on Facebook. So we're kind of in a couple different places so you can tune in. And in some of those places, it is interactive. And so you can actually interact with our video producer, put statements on the screen, and ask questions. And we can address them, deal with them, go from there. So it's a little bit of interactive TV at the same time. It's live radio. So all of those things together.
Woohoo. We're right on the edge of Christmas, so if you're looking for presents, give the kids a gun. I mean, it's like I started mine out little when between Christmas and birthday. By the time they get to be 30, they have a pretty severe collection of Enfields at that point.
So Diane Houston wants to know if we shot the cannon again this weekend. No.
Nope.
We did not. We put it in the wheelbarrow and wheeled it out last weekend. It was great amounts of fun, but we're working on a housing project that is now using so much of our resources.
I've been thinking about building a blunderbuss, but it's I was looking for something over the top, so like inch and a quarter, inch and a half bore or something like this. Wait.
I saw your face when you loaded the square load into the
right, but my blunderbuss will weigh a lot more than that little Beretta did. I was not prepared. Normally, when black powder stuff pushes more than it shocks you. And
that one hit you.
It was definitely there was a shock wave to it. So
it was pretty funny because he didn't want. It's a double barrel. He loaded both barrels, and now he's stuck because he doesn't want to unload the second barrel.
I had to go over and get the neighbor kid to come and do it.
I know it. That's so funny. Absolutely so funny. So if you're going to look for projects, why don't you dig out one of those cannons, the cannon barrel, and let's see if we can make it some wheels.
I just give you that cannon barrel for Christmas, and you can make your own wheels.
I would have a great time with that.
That way I'm out of it.
I'm getting a cannon for Christmas. So there you go. So shooting wise, I didn't do anything shooting. The only thing that I did was I did the Women for Gun Rights show on Friday night.
I haven't done any shooting stuff. My wife is on that holiday house cleaning thing.
Oh yeah, because everybody's coming. And
I've had to move guns and bullets and reloading equipment and stuff like this that I thought was in a good spot that was out of the way, and turned out it wasn't.
It wasn't out of the way. The way just came. That is the way. Whatever way that is now
the
way.
problem I have is I got way more stuff than I need, and I should sell some of it, but when I go and they want 25 to 50% of whatever it's going to sell for handling it, it's like, well, it hasn't cost me nothing to sit here for this long. I'll just leave it sit. So
it's not eating anything.
Eventually, someday, my kids are going to inherit this big pile of stuff.
And they will gladly pay 50% to be gone, have it gone. So that's what I'm going to be seeing in the long run with your kids, is they'll be like, yep, whatever he paid for it, I don't care.
They'll go through like Steve Martin and the Jerk. All I need is this and this
and this.
All
I need is the thermos and the chair. You can have the rest
and
of
the ladder. Then after that, let them sell it, the rest of it.
I'm telling you, I really think that those people who move and then move and then move, I don't know how they do it. I moved once and it was traumatizing, and so I plan on when I go to move, I'm taking a suitcase, walking out of here, and then auctioning everything, and I'll just buy new stuff.
Yeah, and it's funny. I go places. I mean, I go to auction or I go to a sale or something, and I know it's that what they have is worth something, and it's selling for way less than that. So I'll pick it up, but then I really have no idea what it's really worth. So I end up with I got scopes from the 50s and 60s that are really nice, and eventually sometimes I pick up a gun and I put one of these period pieces on there.
Make it match.
But it's the kind of thing is that I got way more junk than I really actually need, and
you need to start jettisoning it. Just gird your loins and jettison some of it, and it can pay for a trip. Well, not to the beach because you
pay for a trip to the gun shop, and I buy more junk.
I know, because he can't go. He's probably one of the few people in the world who does not like the beach. And then we made the mistake of taking him on a cruise once, and that was water jail.
That was almost as much fun as the beach.
That was like water jail. You took me to water jail. There's nothing to do here but watch seagulls and eat.
You ever sit in the rain and with no way to get out of the rain, and it's just sitting there beating on you, like tick, 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 tick? That's a lot like a boat ride. It doesn't matter how good the food is, it's still that tick, 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 and then nagging raindrops on you.
I love the water. I love the sound of the water. I love the waves of the water.
There's nothing in that water that I'm interested in, and some of the stuff will eat you.
So this is how we did 7 days. I'm just telling you, folks, 7 fun-filled days of the Happy Camper.
Not to mention, it would make your gunpowder wet, too, so...
Okay. Well, let me go back to Women for Gun Rights. I had Robin Sandoval on, and Robin Sandoval she's absolutely amazing. And the more that I hear her speak publicly, the better she has honed that skill. I mean, she has just gotten to where she has come onto her own, to where she can speak anywhere and is just absolutely amazing at it. And so in the context of Second Amendment and gun rights and the leadership and all of that, it's just...
Well, the big thing is she has that empathy built into her voice that makes her feel like she cares.
Well, no,
I don't.
Okay, no. But she has that empathy. It's not just into her voice. She has that empathy where you don't.
I mean...
We're just going back to that.
It's so funny because it's like, she's like, did that hurt or something? It's like, you stupid ass, why would you do that?
If you do it again, I'm going to make it hurt again. Right? It's not the same. It is absolutely not the same. So no, but it's really good. So if you guys want to tune into it, it's on Facebook and it's on OpsLens. And so the OpsLens app, it will be there until Friday. Available, and it's called Women for Gun Rights, and it's really hearing Robin talking about A Girl and a Gun and the organization and how they got it started and where it is now, and just the overall growth of her advocacy is just it
amazes me when I watch they're in this city, they're in this city, then it's like every weekend they're across the country doing things. It's like there's got to be a time when you just want to sit down and not hear gunfire.
I don't know. Coming from you, that's pretty amazing. But no, I don't know. I do know that that Robin and I have scheduled a couple different training sessions across the country, and so I'm so looking forward to 2022 and additional training. And it's going to be great.
Hopefully, bullets are going to be easier to get this year than last year.
Right. Well, for the one training, the week that we're taking you, and it's kind of sandy, but it's not got water, so I don't
mind desert sand. I don't like watery sand. I'd love to ride dirt bikes and look for the gold mines in the Superstition Mountains. It's just when you go down by the water, it stinks like dead fish and old birds, and it's like
Okay. I'm sorry. You just amuse me to no end. So any of you out there that have careers that put you in the water or have a love for water like I do, I apologize for him. Let me just start there.
It was funny because all through 1967 to 70, I watched Jacques Cousteau every time he was on the TV. But
there you go. And then you watch Love
That was
Boat,
as close as I wanted to get to the water, too.
Okay, but you knew everything that... Wowza. But you watched Gunsmoke, too, right? What else did you watch? What else drove you into the industry that you currently in?
You know, it's funny. When we were kids, we watched every cowboy show, just like everybody else. And then we would get, you're out with the pistol and the rifle when the old man's not really paying too much attention to you. You're point shooting and stuff like they do in the Western movies.
Right, until he'd make that little fisty mark and
tell you
give
he's
you
not buying you no more bullets if he catches you wasting bullets again.
He's going to give you the lump on the top of the head.
I've honed that to a fine point where I could point shoot like it's nobody's business, but it's
Wrap it up.
taken me years to do it.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit ProjectChildSafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Writing Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Writing Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, we are back, and we're in the section where Rob gets to give us stories and opinions and history and all kinds of things. So what are we talking about?
Well, what I was going to talk about is we talked a little bit earlier about getting kids something for Christmas or whatever. If you're getting into gun collecting or your kid's getting into gun collecting, buy a book. Buy them a good book or a couple of good books about the subject. Like I say, if you're, no matter what period in history you're dealing with or whatever.
What are the basic books that they ought to buy?
Well,
So
I mean, if you're collecting Enfields, you should buy a book on Enfields, and then they're going to go from the Revolutionary War period of flintlocks all the way up through. So you can pick out whether you want Longley's or Smellies or number 4s or whatever. And
is it really called Smelly?
yeah, it's a short magazine rifle is how they do it, and so they call them Smelly.
I don't want a smelly rifle for Christmas.
But you might like a Smelly. They're actually a very nice little rifle, 10-shot bolt action. They got good sights on them. They hit pretty hard.
Since I give them all names, I'd have to name it Limburger.
And then they have, prior to the Smelly was the Longley, which is a little bit longer action, usually a single stack magazine, and it had the safety was on the bolt handle itself. But there's a lot of really weird things in that stuff. So if you're looking and you're collecting those, when you find it, you have to buy it, or you don't get another opportunity. May spend another 80 years before it all of a sudden comes back out into the open again. There is
a lot of truth to that.
There's a lot of things. If you're cheap, you won't have a good gun collection. That's all there is to it. And there's some things that if you're looking for them, they only come out in the open every like 30, 40 years. And as that collector dies off, his collection comes available. It goes back into someone else's collection, and it's usually not on the open market. So if you're looking for something that's really obscure, I mean, they only made 15 of them. When you find one, you're going to pay the money or do without. You've got two choices.
Right, and you're probably not going to see the other 14 of them in your lifetime.
Right, they don't show up, and sometimes you'll see something that you don't really know what it is because it's in between two commonly identified groups, and some of that stuff is still so obscure that we don't really know. There's Japanese rifles. I mean, we've had them for 80 years. The Japanese have had them for 150, and we still don't know all the different models and makes. They're just now starting, in the last 20 years, writing books about them that actually showed you some different
So if your advice to a collector is if you see something that looks period correct but is not familiar to you,
it's worth buying it, because even if it was something that somebody put together, there's still good parts on it. If it happens to be a factory, experimental model or something that they were transitioning into, then you hit the jackpot at that point, and other people will be just wishing they had one, and
and you've got it right. So you have done that in the past. So what are the things that you have taken a risk on?
I just recently bought this little Enfield carbine that we talked about. That they did not make carbines. So this is a number 1 Mark III, dated 1917. It's got the cartridge cut off and all the stuff. It was built in Australia. It looks like the Australians actually took it sometime in the 40s and cut it down. They put a new barrel on it, and so the front half is one set of serial numbers. The back half is the original set of serial numbers, and it's got a 20-inch barrel, and they didn't make any of these. So if you can prove that they did, now there's going to be a small number of these out there, but people figured somebody just sawed them off with But they fit the wood back to them. Everything is so nice, and they even serial numbered the barrel and the sights and the bayonet mount and all that stuff together. So some guy working in his basement isn't going to go to all that trouble.
Right.
In most cases, no. I mean, if anything, he's going to match the serial number in the front to the rest of the gun.
Right.
Instead of trying to
give it another number. Okay.
I mean, it's like I bought a 1903 Springfield. It was originally built in 43. It was 03A3. It was rebuilt in August of 47. it's got a Remington marked barrel in .45 ACP caliber. The whole gun is built out of military parts except for the shell plate that goes in the bottom of the magazine. Mine is a single shot, and you just lay the bullet in there and shove it right in the barrel. That's marked Hollywood Gun Shop, which was a big gun shop out in California back in the day. I believe it's long gone now, but I don't know for sure. And but from what I can find of these, they're saying that they estimate to make about 200 of them. Most of them have some type of magazine to take a 1911 magazine. I've heard some people say that they possibly were built to try to entice the Panamanian government into buying these, because they had 4 million receivers that were coming back from the war with really no use in mind at that point.
So if they could convince someone that they needed 1 million of their 4 million or something, it would be
they
good.
could just rebarrel them, refit them, and send them back out again. So it's I mean, I thought that when I bought mine, I thought it possibly was built for the ROTC programs in the colleges, because the sights, everything was the same as the standard 03. It shot Tommy gun ammo, so they had millions of rounds of it laying around. And most of those ranges had indoor ranges that could handle the .45 automatic caliber. So I thought that this was possibly a good fit by basically changing the barrel and the magazine plate or whatever. But
there's no real, so you're still in the discovery phase on this one.
I mean, and it's so cool. I don't care. I mean, I go out and shoot it once in a while, and it's like if I never find out it's worth more money than what I paid for it, it's still I got one and you don't. And
I get that, but advice to listeners: if you've got something that is unique and different, and you know what it is, write it down, put it in the box with it.
Right, because there's a lot of stuff like that. I mean, I have a friend who had collected 1911 pistols that were built in the 30s for the national matches. So they were built at the time by a gunsmith that was not famous and shot by some military guy who was not famous, who later in life, both of them became famous.
And that was what he used as the measurement for what guns he was looking for.
These guns were built by big name people, and but way before they got to be famous for doing it. And some of them were winners at the national matches and stuff like this. But if you don't document all the stuff about it, it just looks like a standard 1911 pistol. And
and the value, the provenance is broken, and the path is broken. Hey, when we come back, we're going to have Alan Gottlieb from SAF, Second Amendment Foundation, on talking about the work that SAF does and where we stand right now with lawsuits and the like. So stay tuned. We'll be back.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Writing Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Writing Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, krmaradio.com.
Okay, we are back, and with us is our guest, Alan Gottlieb. And you know Alan Gottlieb from the Second Amendment Foundation, and from just, if it has something to do with defending the Second Amendment, it's got Alan Gottlieb's name on it somewhere. It really does. So, hey, Alan, thanks for joining us on Eye on the Target Radio.
Hey, Amanda, it's always my pleasure. Thank you.
So our listeners absolutely love it when you join us. There's so much information that you share. But first thing is we're doing a series this is our December Christmas series. And so we are looking at different things that we were talking to our folks about how they can gift to others, to Second Amendment people, something that is Second Amendment related. And one of the things that I want to recommend is a life membership of the Second Amendment Foundation, is a gift for the Second Amendment person in your world, in your life, and it will have such meaning to them. So let's start with tell folks how they join Second Amendment Foundation and what that does for the world, or for the United States for sure.
Well, I guess the easiest way to do it is to just go online at saf.org, samalphafrank.org, or put Second Amendment Foundation in your browser, and we'll pop up. And the life membership that you just mentioned is $150, and it's for all the national gun rights groups, the cheapest life membership that's out there. And I think it's money well spent because we do an awful lot with it, particularly in the legal arena. About 80% of the case law won for gun rights in the courts have been won by the Second Amendment Foundation and our attorneys. So it's really a great gift, but it's also kind of steep. At $150 is a lot of money to spend for somebody for a Christmas present. So you can also get a 5-year one for $50 or an annual membership for $15. So there's different price points depending on length of membership, and all three are really good gifts. So from $15, $50, or $150. And while we're talking about Christmas presents from the foundation, at our website at saf.org, there's a pop-up that comes up when you get there that has some T-shirts for sale. If you click on that, you can buy either the T-shirts or it takes you to our Second Amendment Foundation store. There's all kinds of products to be able to buy there at saf.org.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, we'll check out the line of T-shirts and all of that kind of stuff, because we've already gifted memberships to people, so now we'll have to work on something new. But I am such a fan of you and the work that you do. So why don't you fill folks in a little bit on on what's current, what's going on, and then we're going to come around and talk about the Second Amendment case that is in the Supreme Court right now and get your spin on that.
Okay, before we get to the Supreme Court case, we've loaded up the lower courts with a whole bunch of cases right now in anticipation of a victory at that Supreme Court for that case you just mentioned. And so we're challenging lots of laws all across the country that after that one is taken care of, it'll either impact the ones we currently have in the federal courts, or they'll move up to the Supreme Court. And we have 2 more cases that are going to be filed, hopefully one next week and one that may have to wait till the first week of January. But there's 2 more online as well. I can't talk about the ones we're going to file until they're filed, because that's my agreement with our attorneys. But I'm really kind of excited about it all. And then, of course, what we've just seen in the news is Governor Gavin Newsom in California has decided to try and pass a law in California to allow anybody to sue gun companies just because they made a product, even if they weren't impacted by it. If somebody just absolutely, makes a so-called large capacity magazine or a so-called assault weapon, or makes a gun in their own home, they can be sued by anybody in the state of California, in court, in state court. I don't think he's going to get very far with it, because I think those suits are all going to go down the tubes. But it's a way to try to bankrupt the firearms industry with 1 million frivolous lawsuits.
Right. So let's move on. Let's talk about that for a second, because it was my belief that the PLCAA, the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, was supposed to protect gun companies, and yet the Bushmaster lawsuit that happened on the East Coast, or is still happening, makes that not as believable anymore. What's your thought in that arena?
Well, that law that was passed for protection of lawful firearms being sold by manufacturers is still holding. The problem is in Connecticut, where that suit is being prosecuted in state court. They've come up with a new novel theory that they're suing them on the marketing of it, not the gun itself, and how it was marketed. And so there's this false deceptive advertising marketing, which of course isn't true. But again, it's going back to trial for that. They haven't won on it. The higher courts have just said that, well, you can litigate it, and it'll end up going back anyway. And the protection of firearms, products that's currently in effect may still hold on it anyway, but they're just basically now they get to go to trial, and that just costs a fortune for the firearms industry to defend themselves. So it isn't that act that was passed by Congress isn't exactly perfect, so to speak, to stop some of these suits, and they're going to do everything they can to try and get around it all, no matter what. So we always have to expect that, and I think we're going to prevail in the outcome at the end of it. But in the interim, if they can get thousands of suits at one time against a gun manufacturer, I mean, the legal fees it costs him to defend himself puts him out of business, and that's what they're really trying to do.
Right. Yeah. Their whole hope is that they're just gone, and there is that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, Amanda, this is a direct attack on individuals' right to keep their arms, because if you can't manufacture them, if your companies are out of business, then you can't buy them. If you can't buy them, you can't own them. And that when they know they can't go to court and just ban all guns because they lose, this is a way around that with this stupid kind of litigation to just bankrupt the industry.
Right. I mean, it's sort of like where they've gone after trying to shut down all the gun shops, and they're everything that they possibly can do, and that's another way to put a chokehold on the entire industry. Because if the manufacturers make it, but the gun shops aren't there to sell it, what happens then? So, Rob, you've got a question about the lawsuit against Smith & Wesson?
Well, Smith & Wesson is right now, there's a lawsuit about the AR-15 because they call it a military and police M&P model or something.
Okay.
And so it's basically about the way they advertise the AR-15. And I wondered if he had something.
Yeah, well, you're right. It's about how they're advertising it. And so they're claiming that it's a military police weapon, not a weapon for civilians to use. But that's not going to hold up in court. It really isn't, because just because the police use the same kind of weapon, there's no reason why you can't either. The Second Amendment is only the police can have it, and you can't.
They've been using that M&P name since 1899, also.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. It's not going to hold, but again, all these lawsuits are just aimed at
they just cost
bankrupting
money.
the industry. And the sad part about this is that when a lot of these localities, cities, states, or whatever sue, what happens is they're using taxpayers' dollars. So you and I and manufacturers are paying for both being prosecuted and have to pay to defend themselves.
So, yeah, okay, I get it. So we pay for both ends. In Ohio, when they passed the concealed carry law, they made it to where if a city goes and pushes back against it,
with
then
the preemption, and they have to pay. They have to cover both sides of the lawsuit.
yeah, so both, and so Cleveland has had to pay a couple times. Cincinnati's had to pay. They just don't learn. And
no, they don't. But a little bit of history on Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
They had, there was a point where they had no permit issued at all in Ohio. The Second Amendment Foundation actually filed a suit that overturned that and forced the legislature then to adopt some type of carry law. And when they adopted the carry law, in order to be able to get enough votes to get it passed, we were lucky enough to make it, basically a shall issue, and then have some other things in there to help protect it.
Mm-hmm.
So the legislature did that. But if it wasn't for the Second Amendment Foundation's lawsuit to start with that forced them to do it, it never would have gotten done.
Wouldn't have gotten done. We have a standing joke here on this show that Ohio is so brave that they are glad to be the 40th state to pass something. Let the others go ahead of them, and they'll be right along in the tail end of that dog. So that's where Ohio is all the time.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, they're not real brave. As a state, they're not real brave. So as you have cases filed right now, what are the big ones that people should be kind of keeping their ears and eyes open on?
Well, the main one, of course, is what you started with this the U.S. Supreme Court case, challenging the stupid law in New York State that makes it next to impossible for somebody to get a permit to be able to carry a firearm outside their own home to protect themselves and their family members. And that's what the court's taken that case. They've already had oral arguments on it. We expect a decision coming out in June of next year, which is creeping up pretty quickly now. And I expect to win that. And the question to me is, how big a win is it going to be? Is it just going to take out the New York law itself, or is it going to add some teeth, so to speak, to Second Amendment rights and knock out some other laws that are similar to it in other states as well, and or even maybe talk about the standard of review that's needed for heightened scrutiny on Second Amendment rights, which then could aid and abet about 40 lawsuits the Second Amendment Foundation currently has in federal courts around the country on other issues. In addition to carry, which we have some, we have ones that are going to the so-called semi-automatic, sporting rifles, the magazine capacity, to 18 to 20-year-olds being able to buy and own guns in certain states or carry in certain states, to having to get a permit to be able to purchase a gun to begin with, all kinds of other regulations as well. So we're hoping that the Supreme Court decides we don't want every case having to come back to us, so we're going to give a ruling in the New York case that will affect a lot of other laws around the country as well.
Well, that will be absolutely amazing as we see the dominoes go. So we're going to get ready here. We're going to go to a commercial break. When we come back, the questions I've got questions. I've got so many questions, and you've got such a wealth of knowledge and so many answers. So, folks, check out saf.org, Second Amendment Foundation, and we have Alan Gottlieb with us. And it's not often that you get to hear from somebody who has such standing in the industry and has such veritable knowledge. So you stay tuned, Alan will stay tuned, and we'll all meet back here right after these commercials.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Sefcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, we are back with Mr. Alan Gottlieb from the Second Amendment Foundation, saf.org, if you want to check out their website. So, Alan, thanks for joining us. And the question that I wanted to ask really is, as the courts are looking at these, you mentioned 40 different cases that SAF has. Are any of them kind of like put on the back burner by the court system while they wait to see what the response is on Bruin? I know that the gun people, the gun industry itself, we're all waiting with bated breath, but I didn't know what the courts were doing.
That's a very good question. And the answer is in some of those cases, the answer is yes, because either we or the states who are suing have asked the court to put a hold on it until the Supreme Court makes a ruling, since the ruling could very well impact the case and may not have to go any further. And so the answer to some of those is yes. And then some of them, the courts have said, no, we're just going to go ahead anyway, especially if it's at a lower court level, because it's going to hit the appeals court before it hits the Supreme Court. So some of them, they're still moving. Some of them are stayed a little while. And some of them aren't necessarily going to be affected by the Supreme Court case. So they're moving no matter what.
Okay, so that just allows you to kind of shift resources then if these are on hold while you're watching for those. But it sort of looks like you guys are like jugglers right now. There's just so much stuff in the air.
Yeah, there really is. You know, this is just a funny story here. When we won the case at the U.S. Supreme Court on McDonald versus Chicago, we didn't just knock out the Chicago handgun ban. we got the Second Amendment incorporated through the 14th Amendment to be applicable to all the cities and states. And our opponents argued that if the court gave us that victory, it would open the floodgates up, to the courts for all kinds of lawsuits challenging gun laws. And for the first time maybe in their history, the anti-gun movement was right. And that's why we have so many cases right now.
Well, that's good. Now and then we want them to be right. We want them to be right about the fact that they're wrong. So, what other interesting cases do you think, like I said, where should people be watching, or where should people, can people see a case that they say impacts them and make a donation and earmark it specifically for that type of an effort? Can it go into a specific bucket for you?
Well, I guess they could when they went into SAF.org and make donation. It's a common place where you can earmark anything you want or make a comment. But to be honest about it, that it probably isn't necessary to do it because there are so many cases that we're working on that actually impact everybody no matter what. Especially if it gets up to a Supreme Court ruling, it obviously will affect everybody. If it gets up to an appeals court, it'll affect everybody in the state that appeals court represents, and then sets a precedent, so to speak, for other courts to follow suit, or if they don't follow suit, then almost forces it to the U.S. Supreme Court. So all these court cases really affect everybody, and I look at it this way as well. When we started with all of this, we had to start building the foundation for the legal scholarship and the legal victories in the courts. And, when you build a foundation, then you have to build, the first floor, the second floor, the third floor on top of it. So each one of these cases that we win cements all of our rights, period, and it's much harder for the other side to knock the building down, so to speak. So it's kind of important for us to keep filing and winning these suits, because the more case law you build, the harder it is for them to erode it.
Yeah, that's great. And so you guys are building a rock-solid foundation. And I know that SAF works with other organizations, at least to make it to where they get and you get what this foundation is, and so that they don't pour the wrong footing or they don't head in the wrong direction to counter something that you guys are already working on, correct?
Yeah, but there's more to it than that. We always try to partner with local groups in the various states as plaintiffs with us, because it helps them grow, it helps them organize their people and get their people excited, and helps build the gun rights movement to begin with. And sometimes that's as important or more important than actually winning the case itself.
Oh yeah, I could see that. So let's talk. Can I ask about Gun Rights Policy Conference? Is it going to happen in person this year?
Well, next year, because this year is already over.
Okay, this year is over. Almost.
We're looking at September of next year, and we're negotiating right now with 2 hotels, one in Texas and one in Florida. We don't have an agreement yet, but again, a lot's going to depend on COVID and where we are and what's open and how easy it is for people to travel or not. We'd like to have it opened, but we're not sure it'll be there yet. So we're sort of in a slight holding pattern, both because we don't know where the virus is going, or what's going to happen in the hospitality world. But we're prepared if we can't do it in person. We're prepared to do it, again, streaming it, live on the internet. We actually reach more people somehow when we do it that way. But on the other hand, I'm really kind of excited and hope we get to do it in person. Because one of the important things about Gun Rights Policy Conference isn't just the agenda itself. It's the networking that goes on, and all the gun rights activists all getting engaged with each other. So if we can't do this thing in person, we might do a smaller type event. But, we've been getting up to 1,200, 1,400 people attending gun rights policy conferences.
Right.
We do them live, and it makes it harder to find a venue and as well. But when we get it that big, we're not getting all just the key leaders. We don't want to spend more time networking. So we might do some kind of a networking leadership conference as well if we have to go to GRPC virtually.
Okay, that kind of makes sense. So Rob's got a question about the ATF and record keeping.
Well, recently it's come out that Biden's ATF is taking the gun shops that are closing, and they've electronically filed 58 million records or something of previous gun sales. Is that something you guys are looking into?
Yeah, but what you're saying is really only half true. There's been a lot of people on our side that have overblown what's going on. First of all, when gun stores close, it's not the Biden administration making do this. This is already current law and has been for years and years and years. When a gun store goes out of business, they have to send all their records to ATF. The difference is ATF doesn't put them on a computer. ATF puts them in. They scan the records in, and the records are scanned and they're searchable only by the serial number of the gun, not by the person's name, etc. So what the Biden administration is trying to do is figure out a way to expand that so they can make it basically a national registration scheme for people who have bought guns at gun stores that have gone out of business. So it's half true and half not true. So we're fighting the part that Biden's trying to do, but the other part is already law, and there's no real way to fight that.
Okay, yeah, I know that if a gun shop goes out of business or after 20 years, I had thought that all records that they could send them, or that if they went out of business, they have to send them to, like, we'll just call it Iron Mountain, but some government storage record-keeping place. But if the gun shop makes it to longevity of more than 20 years, someone told me recently that then they're allowed to destroy the 21-year-old records. They're allowed to destroy them. Is that true? I thought that they had the right to keep them, or if they were overwhelmed with records, they could send them to Iron Mountain. That is correct. You are correct about that. But that is not a new law that the Biden administration is trying to propose. That's a current law. But what Biden is trying to do is just instead of scanning those in on microfilm that is searchable by the serial number of the gun. So if they recover a gun, or and they need to trace the gun, they could do it, but they can't just trace the person by person's name. Biden
just put your name in and see how many guns you bought over the last 40 years.
Yeah,
but I know that. Well, part of it was they had been fighting it for years, and it was like they voted on it every year. And a couple of years ago, it got put into a budget bill and passed as a permanent thing to keep them from being able to electronically file that to tell how many guns you had bought over a lifetime.
There's not really a current law on that. The way the law is actually written is they can't create a computerized database, period. And so that would fall under that. Okay, there you go. So, well, we're coming right up to the top of the hour. So, folks, go to Second Amendment Foundation, SAF.org, check things out, and really consider gifting to someone in your family something that supports the Second Amendment Foundation and shows them that you understand their love of the Second Amendment in the same way that you understand their love of you. Family is family. So, Alan Gottlieb, thank you so much for joining us on Eye on the Target.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
supposed to ride. Standing in the station, ready to step inside. All you can see, something that you do, was red as the future was waiting for you. Train rolls in the station, you cannot make a move. Something inside you gives you heat, and then you know it's true. Is the fog lifting, or is it in your mind? You stand frozen as time unwinds. On the platform, you can weep and moan, or you can reach your hand up and stop standing alone. Let them take your hand as you lift your face. Rise and take your place.
stand by.
You hit the radio bullseye. And the home for everything Second Amendment, concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection, and it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
Well, we are back. And while we're talking, you know, Alan Gottlieb is just so informative, and there's so much stuff going on, and he just knows so much in every different direction. And it gets you thinking about politics and guns and anti-gun and agendas and stuff. So I don't know if you've seen the news that Gavin Newsom wants to, as Alan put it, he wants to pass a law to allow anybody to sue anybody about anything related to guns, firearms, whatever, in the hopes to bankrupt them.
And you see them too. It's if they're getting voted out of office, they pass some massive bill of something. New York, the guys in New York tried it. The Virginia here is trying to pull a fast one on everybody. So long after they're out of office, the stuff will still be in effect. And I don't know if you can get the next guy can stop any of that stuff or how.
I mean, I don't know, but is it gonna be like Barrett, where Barrett was like, I'm just not selling to. Wasn't it the police?
Well,
in
yeah,
California's
banned the 50 caliber rifle, so Barrett made it so he wouldn't even fix the guns that the California police had.
He was like, okay, we can't have them. There you go, take this.
Right,
Boom.
and then he immediately came out with the 416 Barretts just to stick it in their eye, and everybody could buy a Barrett with a 416 barrel on it.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. So our video producer thinks that the general public should be able to sue the governor of California for being annoying. Well, there's so many causes.
The thing is in a lot of the cases, these guys are above the law, basically. I mean, it takes so long to get any result or get even to court that they're long out of office before you can sue them or anything.
Well, and the other part is that a lawsuit, it doesn't matter how frivolous the lawsuit is, it costs you thousands of dollars, and thousands is on the small side.
Right.
And it just goes from there. And so,
the problem we have, we can see it. You look at any of the news stories in the headlines. They're complaining that gun buybacks don't work. They're complaining that the teens are getting guns and that the felons are getting guns. We don't spend money on proactive programs. We do not want to spend money on training police. We do not want to spend money on extra security. We do not want to spend money on teaching kids gun safety in school when they're 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, instead of waiting till they're 17 and they're out shooting the place up. We tend to like to waste our money on bureaucracies that are going nowhere, programs that we hire your brother-in-law and the rest of your family to do stupid things. I mean, you could look through some of the Democrat-run cities that they lost $800 million all of a sudden, and no one knows where it's at, and no one's bothering to look for it either. So it's like, what's up with that? That seems like a pretty good chunk of money to me that could be done something with.
Pretty soon that stacks up into real money.
Right. I mean, you think about it too. We are paying the National Guard right now to work. I mean, they do their job, and also as a citizen soldier, they're home and they work. They go on deployment for 2 weeks or a year. Why don't we make one of those weeks in the school, and then you go to a school, you work for a week, and go do your other week somewhere else. But this way, you don't get to make friends. You don't know anybody. Everybody's enemy, and you treat them all the same. And
okay, so your point about not making friends is that you don't cut this guy slack over that guy because you know him and he's your buddy.
If you've been there for a couple of years and you've known the guy since he was a little kid, and all of a sudden now he's 17 years old, and you just let him have a pass because he's always been a nice guy and stops and talks to you. If you don't know him, you're going to
give him the same side eye you're giving everybody else. Right. Okay.
So by moving them around, I mean, you get 1 week of school duty. I mean, you put 4 or 5 or 6 or 10, however many, so many per student into the schools, and we have a police force that already knows, and give them all their stuff. I mean, if they're in the school and they need a gas mask and a hand grenade, I say they need to have it. None of this. We're not giving them bullets. We're not giving them this.
No, I don't disagree. I mean, there's so many schools that are like even the DARE officer. They call him a DARE officer as opposed to an officer. He's an officer with an assignment. But we're not allowing that one to have a gun. Why?
And it's the one thing is you may have your whatever resource officer, and that guy may be the guy that is rounding up your National Guardsmen and getting them in the position and know what's going on and where they're at. But they need to they need to have a coherent program that goes across the country so every school is treated the same, and we just use our military to our best ability.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, some of the times I think your solutions are a bit heavy-handed, but this one may actually not be.
There's a spot where talking gently doesn't get the same results as the backhand of a glove on the upside of the head, and so we've already tried all that whispering and here's a donut, here's a sit in the corner, time out for a couple minutes. We tried all that. It's not working. I think that we need to start cracking heads, as they used to say.
and
fear is a great motivator. And if you can use that to your ability to make someone apply their self to school instead of drawing pictures of dead bodies or making a hit list or something like that, then more power to you. But if not, then when they do catch that guy, they may need to make an example out of him.
And we don't do that either. I get it. So,
I think it's called bullying on a national scale.
There you go. I mean, that was the first thing. Here is this kid. Well, they want to prosecute him as an adult, but then they want to prosecute his parents as enabling a kid. Well, you got to make up your mind there.
But there's a spot where they could still be enablers, but not so much that they're enabling the kid. So he's to try him as an adult, and if they find out that the old man bought him the gun
he's an accessory to the crime.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're partners, all three of them, or whether the one was driving a getaway car or was running the shotgun, they all are the same. They all were doing the same crime. I mean, it doesn't break down to the family unit of, well, we can't be mean to.
Well, the interesting part is how many people were like, well, he was bullied. I don't care. You know, the answer is that
I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and we were bullied. I mean, I've had my books thrown out of a school bus window. Even the bus driver gave me a ticket for passing gas on the bus.
The bus driver.
So everybody was against me. But
at the same time, you know, everybody feels that. So take action, and that action is change your circumstance, change the situation, fight back, push back, or move. But it isn't to just turn around.
We've got away from that water off a duck's back thing to where everyone needs a therapist today, and it's not necessarily as
I couldn't believe how many people were like, well, he was bullied. No, there is no well, he was. Like it's a justification. There is no justification. None. Nada, zero, none. And so just none. So.
On lighter news, Remington is finally back in the business. So now they've brought out the classic Peters paper shotgun shell line. If you guys don't remember paper shotgun shells, you'll be amazed by them. They swell up in the rain and they don't fit in your gun, and then sometimes the case head will separate from the cardboard body. And you'll have all kinds of interesting issues with this.
The fun part, the interesting part is they stopped building them for a technical reason.
In 1960, they decided plastic was better, and it has been all the way along.
Okay, and so now they're going down they're heading down memory hill
well,
here.
The thing is, Federal had never
they don't
stopped,
have a memory of it.
Federal has never stopped making, I think it's a gold medal trap around is a paper. It's been paper. But in most cases, that's a one-time use at the Olympics or the national matches or something like this. People don't buy that case to load it over and over and over again for multiple firings. So it's if you get a chance, buy yourself some of this Peter's paper shells. It'll trip down memory lane.
Well, the interesting thing is you're thinking that they're gonna sell the heck out of it right now because nobody can get anything.
We would buy it if it was made out of Twinkie wrappers. I mean, it doesn't matter. I just need.
But later they're going to wonder why this line didn't do so good, and so then it'll go away again.
Right, and it's I mean, there's a spot in there where it works good when it's brand new and fresh, but like I say, it doesn't handle weather well, and it doesn't reload well. Or
yeah, it's gonna be fun. When we come back, I'm gonna ask you about Peters and UMC and Remington and all of the other people who owned Remington, because it's a story and it's a long list.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, krmaradio.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Sefcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, so as we were sitting here and we're reading this AmmoLand article about Remington and their new paper shells, it was that Remington owns Peters, and it says that that Remington purchased the Peters Cartridge Company, and Rob's like, oh no, they didn't. It was the other way around.
Remington has never been a moneymaker. They started in 1816 actually building barrels for other companies. During the Civil War, they racked up a huge amount of debt trying to get government contracts for their new Army pistols and ammunition that they were selling. When the war stopped, all of a sudden the government contracts stopped, and now they were left holding huge debt. The Union Metallic Cartridge Company, UMC, you've all seen Remington UMC, they were loaded with cash, so they bought Remington. And Remington was famous, so they used the Remington name with the Remington UMC logos and stuff. Worked out pretty well for them. After the Civil War, the new Army was a pretty good quality pistol. They had just invented the rolling block action, which got government contracts all around the world. They made it to up into the World War I era, and they were running out of money again. And right after World War I, here they were in the same boat they were in Civil War. They tooled up to make Russian rifles. The Russians backed out on them in 1917 because of the Bolsheviks taking over. Our government had bought a bunch of stuff, and when the war was over in 1918, we quit writing checks again. So they were stuck with in the same boat. They'd used up all of UMC's money, and so they were looking for something else to do. So Peters actually stepped in, bought the thing in the mid-30s sometime, and then they ran it until in the 50s, and DuPont actually...
and they ran out of Peters' money. so Peters didn't have as much as UMC. UMC lasted 50 years. Peters lasted 20, right?
Right. Well, the thing, too, is that there was a lot of stuff going on during that 50-year period at UMC. So they were selling a lot of guns around the world, and you think about between World War I and World War II, relatively peaceful time period. Not a lot of people needing to arm up armies and everything like this. So it was a rougher time for them. So yeah, and now DuPont is gone, and they've sold them out at the
now they've fragmented
auction,
them into multiple places. Yeah.
So we'll see how the new companies fare. But as you can see, no gun company really does well for long. Winchester was the same way. I mean, they belonged to Winchester for a long time, and then Olin had bought them out, and they finally, I think now FN owns most of the holdings for the Winchester name brand.
Yeah, they kind of split it up. Everybody got a piece of it.
Ruger's the only one going strong. They've pretty much been able to keep their stuff and go, but I think some of it too is they have a lot of their casting firms and stuff like that helps them on the backside of their...
Yeah, so they looked at multifaceted manufacturing and layered it so that they can control their own destiny where some of the others don't. I know that Smith & Wesson at one point was bought by a company called Safety Hammer, and then they kept the Smith & Wesson name. So yeah, there's been a few.
Right, I mean, when you got a company that's been in business for 100, 120 years, and everybody knows, and I mean, it's a household name. You would be stupid to stop using that name and try to train the populace to use a new name.
Your name, and yeah, your name is like not famous, and theirs is famous. So let's use the famous name. So one of our listeners says that he worked for Remington, or he worked for DuPont, who owned Remington in the 1990s. So interesting. Thanks, Charlie. I appreciate the input.
And DuPont he come from France, and he started a powder mill on the right along the East Coast, and he was blowed up a couple different times, but.
Well, obviously he wasn't blowed up so bad that he didn't get up, right?
Well, I think they built the powder factories with one loose wall, and then they call it a dry pack, and when the thing blows up, they just restack that wall and hire a new crew, and they're back to business
part
again.
of it is the intent that maybe the crew won't die because the building doesn't collapse on them. It's not just that, well, we blow those out the drywall and start over. You heartless animal, you.
It's not if you're going to blow up; it's when you're going to blow up.
Obviously, if you're working in something that is such a high,
well, that's why they don't. That's why we don't really have a lot of gunpowder manufacturers here in the U.S. Actually, the guy who built Pyrodex powder, you've heard of the Pyrodex. He actually blew himself up and killed himself before the powder actually went famous. Also, so it was.
The history of man. Oh man, I don't know. It's yeah. So you'll hear more about the classic Peters paper shells coming up, and yeah. So our video producer says hopefully the crew can still hear when the wall is rebuilt, because that bag would be it would be a big bag. Yes. So all of that. Hey, when we come back, our next segment, we've got a couple minutes, but our next segment, we have a new book author. So a guy off the East Coast, Tyler Yzaguirre, has written the book Gun Rights 101, and he's going to be joining us talking a little bit about his book and what it is, where it is, how you can get it. So what else you got going on here?
Well, here's a teacher that is accused of...
oh, I saw this.
So they felt that she wasn't getting the results from her school district that she thought.
She's vehemently anti-gun and wanted the school to react.
She posted some notes, and some of them she put in the bathroom. Some of them she actually turned in herself and saying she had found them and stuff, and saying that they were going to shoot up the school and everything.
Well, yeah, so she was committed to, she had written notes referencing committing gun violence on school property. So she found them in her classroom, she found them in the restroom, others found them in the restroom. She wrote them all.
It says the police said that they confirmed the handwriting was hers, and she couldn't remember doing any of that.
Right, so she wasn't sure. So
what do they call that when you get up in the night and you write paragraphs of stuff?
I know sleepwalking. When they asked her what she hoped to accomplish, she said that she hoped that it would bring attention to the fact that it is not a safe place. So considering the Jussie Smollett case this week and this, it's not a good idea to cry wolf when there is no wolf, because pretty soon people won't believe you at all. When we come back, Tyler Yzaguirre.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Well, we are back, and I'm just going to say that we're supposed to be having our guest, Tyler Yzaguirre, on as our guy, and he's not here.
So in the meantime, let's talk about car, and you can get a nice...
We could do that.
We get something nice for Christmas, like a Desert Eagle pistol.
We could do that.
Do you ever see the ones they have that are all engraved up with they have like the... what do they call that? The color case hardened finish and the wood grips and everything.
They do the one.
They're beautiful, but they...
the bomber art one is the one that I absolutely love.
Yeah, they're 1911 pistols. Yeah, they have a little shark mouth on them and all that stuff. It's like if you... Every time you go in a gun shop, you just got to buy something new and different, and pretty soon you got so many, it's like, I don't know which one to shoot next.
I know. I just absolutely love the bomber art. But so... next week, we are going to have as one of our guests, we're going to have Firearms Legal Protection talking about continuing our trend of gifts that you can get at the very last minute or made easy for you.
Yeah, it's a gift that you don't really realize you need until you need it, and it's a very, I guess it's a good thing to have.
It really is a good thing to have. So, we're just going to move on because I don't know where our guest is, and that is somewhat disturbing.
Well, going back to our normal, regularly scheduled program.
Because I could just poke you, and you just start to talk, and we're all good.
So,
we've got pretty
San Francisco, I think they should make a new Dirty Harry movie,
right?
Where the people in town hate Harry and. He's not allowed to eat in a restaurant or buy gasoline or talk on his cell phone because
that's how they treat that's how they treat the police officers.
There's a story out of San Francisco here where the police went to a local restaurant and the restaurant seated them, 3 officers, and they were seated for a while before the manager finally come and asked them to leave because they weren't welcome because their weapons weren't welcome. They were welcome to stay as long as they were in plain clothes.
Just go take your guns off and leave them someplace else. Just leave them on the sidewalk and we'll be fine.
They can come back anytime in plain clothes. They just didn't want them in their uniform, and so they
and without their weapons. But knowing that it's a police officer, even in plain clothes, there is not without their weapons.
Right. The eatery didn't feel comfortable allowing the police officers eating there because the presence of the weapons goes against the establishment's safe space ideology. And so they apparently were asked politely to leave, and so then since then there's been some outcry on the
all the social media, because there's going to be, everybody's going to side. They're going to pick a side.
But
they're
like, they've got the restaurants got these online reviews
like
for
Yelp and all those, yes.
1 star because of the way, and so now the restaurants come back to say the cops are welcome into the restaurant. When they're off duty, out of uniform or without their weapons, and there's
yeah, so the police chief, Bill Scott, he's like, that doesn't really help our community policing.
They said, the owners of Hilda and Jesse's said, we've made a mistake and apologize for the unfortunate incident on Friday when we asked members of the San Francisco Police Department to leave our restaurant.
Yeah, so we're grateful to all members of the force who work hard to keep us safe, especially during these challenging times. We hope that this will be a teachable moment for us as we repair and continue to build bridges with the San Francisco Police Department. These are stressful times, and we handled it badly.
Well,
howdy.
The chief says that there's plenty of restaurants, so that it's not a big deal, but it does look bad for the community policing thing when you can't go into some of the locations.
I mean, and just overall, when they start down this path of sitting there going, we're not letting you in because we don't feel safe.
The restaurant's refusal to accommodate police hurts community policing.
Well, it does that, but the thing is that pro-police people are not going to frequent that restaurant. So, and I don't know, it could possibly be that it's already a vegan tofu something or other that may not get the NRA card carrying, hunting, plaid wearing. Yeah.
Like I was saying earlier about some of these stuff, we just don't want to spend money in that. Well, the gun control activists are saying that Biden has turned his back on them and is not going after his agenda that they backed him on.
Mm-hmm.
So they're talking about this, one of the fathers from the Parkland incident and how he had backed Biden administration because of their strong anti-gun speeches ahead of time.
Right.
And so now he's saying that there's nothing happening, and he's highly upset about the whole thing. So
wasn't he the guy who hired Dr. John Lott to do a speech? I think this is the dad.
The guy's name is Manuel Oliver, so I don't know for sure.
One of the Parkland dads, and I'm going to give this guy the credit, but it could be somebody else. But they hired Dr. John Lott, the Second Amendment statistician and gun facts guy, to come and give us a speech at a high school graduation for a virtual school that was then supposed to all show up. And so they had them come and practice it to all these empty chairs, to this empty thing. They recorded it just in case the audio visual didn't work. And then afterwards, then they told them that the jig was up. It was a hoax. And the entire hoax is that you just gave a speech to all the people that you are in favor of killing, and all of the people who've been killed by schools and guns and all that. And worse, and that's bad. So all of that is bad. And then in addition to that, then they had them pick up their own travel there. They were going to reimburse them. They stiffed them on the travel. They stiffed them on the hotel. They stiffed them on the fee. And they walked away and they were like, yeah, you just deserve it. So it's
So anyhow, everything was going along great. They were all behind Joe Biden until the Michigan high school shooting, and then they found out that it was all rhetoric
He's
and
still not gonna do
nothing was happening. So that's when the shoe dropped.
The issue is that he's not going to do something because there's not anything that he can do.
Right.
As the president,
the article also points out that there's nothing that could have been done to the.
This is a Tom Knighton from Bearing Arms article. So Tom is a great writer and a deep
they're just
thinker.
saying that background checks wouldn't have done it, and any other stuff. The only thing that outright ban would the only thing that would have stopped this. And
because once again, it's that someone else bought the gun.
Right, and they said universal background checks and assault weapons bans don't actually apply to this case. So,
right, I mean, because it's right up there with Sandy Hook. I mean, and the issue is they're like, well, we should have done something.
Well,
the guy was willing to murder his mother in order to be able to create more mayhem.
There's big things about these gun buybacks, and they're saying how. Denver's got one planned, and they're saying it's illegal. They can't do it because of the way their laws are written.
I think it's illegal across the entire country when you say that as a private individual.
And some of them are just saying that it's proof that the authorities are desperate and need a scapegoat, so they pin it on. So as you can see, the gun buybacks don't work. We need training. That's what it's training that's going to actually save the day, but we are too cheap to do that.
Well, there's all that, but let's talk about the gun buyback. So the real issue with the gun buyback is that
they didn't own the gun in the first place.
Right, they can't buy it back. So think about this: if it were a car, no questions asked. You bring me a car, I will give you money.
Well, here's
and so the other part is you bring me a car, I will give you money. And I will give you less money than you could sell the car at a car dealership. You could sell the car on the street. You could sell the car.
But it doesn't have to be your car.
That's exactly it. The only cars they're getting in the car buyback program would be someone else's car because they got nothing invested in it.
Well, they're saying on these gun buybacks, they're not necessarily, it's not making a dent in crime. They say most of the time those guns would not have been used in a crime.
Right.
Most of the time the guns are not even usable. And some of the people, local entrepreneurs and activists, have started selling homemade guns at the events.
Just earning a profit and making...
Organizations are such as Guns Save Lives Organized have turned in junk guns in order to buy good guns for their youth programs.
Well, there's all of that. But then when they have their no questions asked policy, part of their no questions asked policy is the fact that even if that gun was used in a crime, they now have it in their hand,
they can't
ask anything, and they can't do anything about it.
Well, it says academic studies have confirmed that these events do not reduce crime or suicides and may have a small effect of increasing crime for a short period.
Because now they have
as people are stealing their guns.
They're stealing guns to be able to turn them into cash. There is no doubt about it. So folks, we've just heard that Tyler is going to be joining us for our second segment. So when we come back from the commercial break, so we've got about another minute of the show, but when we come back from the commercial break, we were going to have Tyler Yzaguirre from Gun Rights 101 on the show. And so, okay, carry on.
Well, it says teens are getting guns illegally in Pittsburgh. They're getting them everywhere. I mean, it's the kind of thing that you can buy anything you want if you have enough money.
And illegally is the key word here.
Right.
There's already a law.
Right, there's already laws. It's just the fact that as long as you are waiving enough money, somebody will sell you something, whether it's theirs or not. I mean, I've seen where they sold the Eiffel Tower 2 times to somebody.
Yep. So the majority of firearms are coming out of the stolen gun bucket. And so
they're saying the stolen gun bucket is where somebody either steals them from somebody else or they are guns that were taken it from... like other criminals are stolen from gun shops and stuff like this.
Okay. When we come back, Tyler Yzaguirre.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Sefcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough? Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Okay, we are back, and with us we have our guest, Tyler Yzaguirre, and I can say guest and author. So, hey, Tyler, thanks for joining us on Eye on the Target Radio.
Anytime, Amanda. It's kind of weird to hear that now, and author.
And
so
author, yeah.
First time I've been introduced as that, so that's pretty cool, actually. Thank you. Apologies for being late there. You know, whenever I try doing something with, the Second Amendment or pretty much anything, I swear Big Brother's out to get me because I always have technical difficulties, so it's always interesting.
It's always an adventure. There you go. So, okay, so you've written this new book that is not yet out or is soon to come out. When is it coming? When is it going to be available?
So it's on Amazon right now. Just search Gun Rights 101, and it's been out for. I did a soft pre-release just to see how it would do, and now it's doing pretty well on Amazon. So just like I said, Gun Rights 101, and it's right there. It pops up first or second result.
Okay, there you go. So the book is called Gun Rights 101, and the first thing I want to ask is, so we're doing the series of segments that talks about to Second Amendment folks, to gun enthusiasts, and to those who love them, of the perfect Christmas presents for everyone. And so your book fits right into that. So what is the cost on Amazon of your book?
So right now it is $17.76. That was done on purpose just to kind of promote the book, and people
drive
go,
that
"Oh,
point
okay,
home."
cool." It's not exactly not $20. It's cheaper. I would do $17.81 when the Second Amendment was ratified, but $17.76 sticks out more than $17.81, and that's why.
Yeah, for most of the Americans who history is not necessary was something to suffer through, not something to celebrate. They, if you said 1781, they're like, what? Right? 1776 has some meaning. So here's an interesting thing, or at least to me, was that you got Colonel Allen West to write the foreword of your book. So how did that come about?
Yeah, I've known Alan for a few years, and actually back in 2017, Dick Heller was kind enough to introduce me to him and picked him up from the airport, and I was like, this is pretty cool. And I went to carry his bags, offer to carry his bags. He stops me. He goes, "Oh, no, I carry my own bags." And that story has stuck with me ever since. And I've gotten to know him a lot better over the years. And I shot him a text one day saying I have this idea for a book. And then I shot him a follow-up email with more details. And I asked him to write the foreword, and he was happy to.
Okay, well, there's a paragraph in here that I think sets the tone, and it's like, and that's why Tyler Yzaguirre's book, Gun Rights 101, is vital for constitutional, liberty-minded Americans. It's a simple read that arms you with the knowledge to dispel the leftist talking points. If we are to preserve this constitutional republic for future generations, Tyler's book establishes such. So those are big words right there, dude.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that he could write something so eloquently like this. Being military minded and all, but it's a really great forward. It's probably one of the, not trying to boast, but it's probably one of the better forwards I've read, from a book. And, when thinking about, honestly, the two biggest components, well, the three biggest components, I think, to writing a book are the title, cover, and forward. And, I had help with the title and the cover. And then I was thinking, okay, who in the gun rights community is, like a titan in the industry? Everyone knows the name. Gun rights, Second Amendment specific. And, Alan West came to my mind first, and I was like, all right, I'm going to ask him. He did it, and it's a great forward. And that's pretty much, most people are commenting on the fact that, Colonel Alan West wrote the forward, not that I wrote a book. They're just more impressed by that fact. And I'm like, okay, that's fair. I'm trying to get to his level. Maybe one day.
No. Think of it this way. We assume that you could write a book. It's hard to assume that you can get Alan West to write the foreword. So think of it as a huge compliment, not as oh, yeah.
Well, I'm going to try to get him out for one of my book tour stops next year. So
that'd be
great. I can swing that as well.
Yeah,
that'd be nice.
So why don't you tell folks a little bit about the contents of the book? I mean, to me, it's one of these books that you can open on any page. It's an easy read, and even for those who are like squirrel, their attention is off to something else. They can hit a point and then carry on with something.
Right. Well, you've got a bunch of books out there. You got books by Dr. John Lott, who's brilliant. You've got books by other gun rights authors, and they'll put out a book. It'll have some gun lies in it, and they debunk the gun lies. Other books are these massive, texts on Supreme Court decisions like Heller and McDonald. And then, but there hasn't been a book published that is like the definitive source. So I was like, okay, I can do this. This is easy. And I compiled a list of 47 gun control lies. I wish I could get 50, but it's really hard to find like a lot of gun control lies that are common mainstream that don't get into the weeds so much. I put them together. It's one lie per page. I never self-published before on Amazon. And when I got the book, the text size is actually a pretty good size. So it's easy to read, easy on the eyes. Can flip to the page and reference. So you've got the gun control lies in there. You've got the breakdown. Each Supreme Court case starts with what I call bullet points. It's the biggest key takeaways from the case. And it's actual bullet points, like bullets for the bullet points. And that's Heller, McDonald, and a lesser-known case from 2015 called Catano v. Massachusetts, which was a per curiam decision, but lesser-known, but still vitally important because it reinforced the common use clause from established in the Heller decision. And then I also list all the national gun rights organizations and all the national gun control organizations, along with each state's version of their own Second Amendment. And interestingly enough, I'm not surprised, neither New Jersey nor California have one. So it's just interesting, I think. And, it's a good sized book. It's only 110 pages. You can read it in 15, 20 minutes, and you can also use it as a study guide and to reference in during debates. So it's, the definitive source to gun rights, I honestly think.
Okay. Well, the interesting thing is like on page 10, it starts with the big lie. AR-15s aren't protected by the Constitution. And then you go into facts, which says fireback. In 2008, the United States Supreme Court ruled in Heller, D.C. versus Heller, that the Second Amendment protects firearms in common use. And you'll hear this argument all over the place, in common use. And so the educated estimate of AR-15s legally owned by civilians is more than 16 million. And when you look at that, that's pretty common. 16 million pretty much puts it up there. So this is the kind of fact and detail. So you did a lot of deep dive, detailed data mining to get to this.
I did, and it was actually fun for me because it reinforced what I had already known. I learned some new things as well. And there's actually a part called the hard data, which is gun control lies that get more into the weeds. About mass shootings, statistics on those, like weapons of war, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, well, I'm going to cut you off because I'm going to tell you folks, go to Amazon, Gun Rights 101, written by Tyler Yzaguirre. That's where you're going to find it, and the cost is $17.76. You know how Amazon is. You could order it and have it in your hand for Christmas. That way you can tell people that you've read Tyler Yzaguirre's words in addition to Alan West's words.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.org.